And here's a look at the sun shining on this Sunday afternoon on Parliament Hill. The Prime Minister is heading home today from the UK, but the criticism of his foreign trip is already mounting, with some questioning the results.
You can communicate a lot over the phone or through video without putting up expensive trips and bills and greenhouse gas emissions, what the Prime Minister is concerned about. And he just had an amazing opportunity at the UN to meet with most, if not all, of these world leaders, many of whom he's met now multiple times, particularly when it comes to the UK.
CTV News political commentator and former NDP leader Tom Mulcair joins us now with more. Tom, good afternoon. Great to see you.
Good to see you, Akshay.
So the pressure continues to mount, Tom, on the Prime Minister to deliver now, with this criticism mounting, flying around the globe, but we aren't seeing anything substantial yet. Is that a fair assessment?
No, I don't think it is. I think that this government was elected at the end of April, sworn in mid-May, got a massive piece of legislation, Bill C5, enacted just before the summer in June, right after they got elected, that will allow the building of infrastructure projects that will be transformative. And that's the word they keep using, but it's going to be true. And the other thing that the government is doing, and that's why Prime Minister Carney was in London, he had to meet with a lot of the people in charge of the bankrolling of that type of mega project and explain to them that Canada is changing its fiscal rules. The tax rules will make it more friendly for people to come and invest in this country. And that is something that doesn't take days or weeks. It takes months and years. I believe that Peter MacKay knows that. But it was very charitable of him to take Poilievre's place and give that little explanation, because I think that even Poilievre must get tired of hearing Poilievre complain about everything that Mark Carney does. Look, we're lucky to have somebody who can walk into any room, whether it is in New York, which Peter MacKay, evoked, or London, or Mexico, where he was. Everybody knows him. He gets to talk to friendly people who have worked with him before, and he's pitching Canada in a much different way. The Brits are in the same position as us. They're stuck with the Donald. You know, after his mindless one-hour rant at the United Nations this week, there's not much left to be said, except now that Trump he wants a triple investigation into the UN because one of his staffers tripped the blockage of the escalator. One of his staffers messed up his access to his teleprompter. And wait for it, Trump wants to know why there weren't speakers in the hall so everybody could hear him speak English. Well, this just in, the United Nations is 200 countries where people speak dozens of different languages, and they're all listening through an earpiece where the sound is impeccable and they can hear every word. Trump likes to hear himself blasted out as if he was in an arena. Look, that's the world we're living in. Reasonable, moderate, intelligent people like Carney, like Starmer, like others who got together this week are saying, how are we going to deal with this? Is it temporary? Is something that we're going to have to deal with longer term? The world of Trump and America that goes along with Trumpism long after Trump is gone. So they're saying, look, we've got to come up with better trade deals for ourselves. Canada has to be thinking long term. And if Peter MacKay and Pierre Poilievre don't like it because they think everything should have been done like that, he's just showing that he's lost a lot of his hand in the experience that he once had in the case of MacKay, than the experience that, frankly, Poilievre's never had. He couldn't walk into a room in London, Akshay, and have anybody know who he is. And that's the difference. That's what Carney can do.
Thank you for putting it all in perspective, Tom. But I have to ask you about the other subjects we are tracking this afternoon. Sure. The interview that we had with the Parliamentary Budget Officer on question period. Yeah, not painting a rosy picture. In fact, warning that the government will have to be careful in its funding and investments while restructuring the economy. What's your sense, Tom? How hard are we going to land with this budget?
Well, maybe a word quickly, Akshay, for the people listening, that the PBO is something modeled on the Congressional Budget Office in the States that's existed for just over 50 years to give neutral advice and information to elected officials. Instead of having a fight over every column and every comma and every word, say, here are the figures. And what we're getting from Jason Jacques is a severe warning that we're about to go over the edge. So Carney's got an answer for that. He's going to be separating the books. He's going to be talking about the day-to-day spending of government and the big infrastructure projects and try to separate them out. But debt is debt is debt. And the problem is when we talk about the fact that maybe our debt to GDP is better than most other G7 countries, we forget about the fact that most of those countries don't have separate entities like provinces that have their own debt. The massive debt in Canada is not just the federal government's debt, it's the provinces, and it's indeed the municipalities in many cases. So it is a huge problem that we're leaving for future generations on top of the environmental problem that we're leaving them, because we're dismantling a lot of the promises we made to fight global warming, for example. So, yeah, I think that Jacques is an indispensable element in our parliamentary life. By the way, he's due to be renewed, Akshay, and he's very good, and he deserves a 7-year mandate, something that the Conservatives have been asking for, and I very much agree with the Conservatives on that. I think that the Liberals should stop playing games around the nomination and appoint Jacques to a full 7-year term.
Okay, we'll leave it at that for this afternoon then. CTV News political commentator, former NDP leader Tom Mulcair, thank you for this, Tom.
All the best, Akshay.
Thank you.